What are you boys up to?
Baron's looking at something, isn't he?
Always looking at a little setting. How is it that you're the one who's always late for the dog show?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I know it's almost there, and I get like excited, so excited. I need to get like my tea and everything. I need to prepare.
Ooh, welcome to the dog show. Welcome to the special. It's been coming for a long while. We've been building it up for the series. Special this week, Fatherhood.
What do I say, you bastard? Anyone seen East is East? I got accused of being that little boy, man, with that hood.
Yeah.
I got so much from my family. Gosh, I've got a lot of similarities in my upbringing. Sajid, or maybe a cup of tea, half a cup.
It's kind of like the Indian royal family. You know the show Royal Family?
Hi, Dad. Been doing a bit of IT, you know.
IT?
You mean SHJT?
As we're introducing the topic of the fatherhood, just talk a little bit about our heritage. I'll kick it off. Grew up in Britain. My mum is Welsh and English, but my dad is from India. He moved to the UK when he was 15 years old, and that was without his parents. So his dad and brothers and everything was all still living in India, and my dad moved to the UK on his own and went to school here. He told me a story one time. He didn't speak any English. Teacher was telling him, "Don't pick up the ball, it's football, you know, don't pick up the ball." And he was like, yes. And the teacher's going ape shit on him just because he doesn't understand what the fuck he's talking about. That's Papa Tank.
Papa. Alright, I'll go next then. Papa Dog Meat. He originally came, I think similar to Tank's dad, came to the UK and London when he was around about 14 or 15 from Guyana, South America. Lived predominantly in London until his 40s, moved around a bit, but talking like a West Indian background dad. He used to tell me he used to pick rice when he was in Guyana when he was 13, 14. He used to bring the pot of rice he picked to the stream, he used to wash it, sort of bring it back home. And a story he tells me is on the way home he used to eat all the rice, and one time he got a little bit too hungry and ate too much of the rice and got slapped up in his head from his mum and dad. So that's a story from one of my dads said that he got
very right.
That's why Dommy loves my rice.
That's not very right.
But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it. But he obviously met my mum in the UK as well, and my mum's from Grenada, born in the UK though, and obviously met my dad in her youth as well, also from a West Indian sort of background.
Yeah, that's a story I never really quite understood from my parents. It was a bit dodgy. They never really spelled it out.
How they met?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's an Indian thing. Maybe it's just a man thing. But he never really talked about it too much. All I kind of gathered is, so my dad is 14 years older than my mum. And he met her, I believe, basically as she was finishing school. So I'm not even sure if this was like a fucking legit situation.
Hold on. How am I only finding out about that now? No, seriously, no. Really,
so my Papa Tang was a proper baron, you know. Like,
Papa Dog Meat was 14 years older than my mum.
Wow.
And I mean, I swear to God, by all sounds of it, he plucked her straight from school. I'm talking.
Oh, jackpot!
Mate, I'm pretty sure the full extent of the story is he put her in the back of his van and drove off one day.
Sorry.
Over to Baron. Tell us the story.
My dad, he came over from a small village in India called Bishnapur, came to the UK when he was 17 to study at Leeds University. He was here with his older brother, who he had a massive falling out with, and they didn't speak to each other for till the older brother died. They had a massive falling out at some point of the time that my dad was staying to complete his degree. Basically, he left my dad with a situation where he didn't have any money. My dad tried to contact him to help him, but he was like, "You're on your own," sort of thing. And my dad was really struggling at that point and just left him basically to fend for himself. After living in the UK for 10 years, he was working in mining, coal miner, and working in Ford. But then he went back to India to get married. So he met my mum there was an ad in the newspaper. Advertisement in the newspaper.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Swipe right.
Right.
So, but my dad didn't get the choice. So my mum's parents had seen a ad of my dad in the newspaper, and they were like, wow, he sounds like a nice man. He studied in the UK. Wow, that's amazing. So obviously at that time they didn't have pictures.
I'm pretty
In the newspapers, it was like, written out.
So it's just like mathematician working as a coal miner looking for...
Yeah, mathematician, lives in the UK, works in the UK, and he's come to India to look for his bride. And so
the English dream.
Gotta find that advert. I want to see that advert.
So their parents invited my dad over, and they were like, oh, he sounds like a really nice man, gonna get them married. So at that point they were married, didn't hardly ever spoke to each other, and I think there was a couple of days later before my dad went to the UK with her. Like, my mum had never seen an airport before. I take the piss out of my mum till this day about that.
To this day!
Because she was in the airport and she was like, wow, it's so big. Wow, what is this? Like, she'd never seen an airport before. Like, she was all excited. My dad knew how to speak English before he came to the UK. My mum's English was not very good at all. She studied English in school, but yeah, she had to learn a lot of English.
So how old was your dad when he was married?
My dad was 33 and my mum was 26.
So your dad was 33. You're 33 now, right?
32, yeah.
So we need to get your advert in the Calcutta Express next year.
Yeah.
Nah, man, I gotta marry a white girl, man. We got Tinder for that. We ain't got no newspaper ads.
How is the Baron's advert in the Calcutta Express gonna read?
Gonna read 32, great personality, beautiful eyes, seeks a nice white woman.
Why has it got to be white?
Sorry, not white. Yeah, remove that from the ad. Seeks a nice woman for good times and possible marriage proposal.
A nice woman.
Sorry, nice woman.
Man's getting greedy.
I think that's a whole dog cast for that book.
I heard he's been researching Islam just so he can have 4 wives. So my mum was my dad's 3rd wife.
Player.
Yeah.
What a edge.
So he had already had 1 child by his first wife, another 2 by the second wife.
Did he divorce them or did he have 3 on the go at one time?
So he was separated from the first 2 women.
Okay.
So then I was the next in line. So I was tank number 4. In Islam, you are permitted to have 4 wives on the basis that you can take care of them and that you're fair to them. But yeah, so my dad actually did have 2 wives at the same time. So
Your mum and another?
My mum was the white woman, so Baron was happy with that part. But to keep the family happy, he also had Indian side piece.
Did you ever meet her?
Yeah. So
How did
basically,
that family work? Was your mum okay with it, or did she not know about it? That's taboo in her culture, right?
her own family, of course, all English or Welsh, frowned on the whole relationship. But actually they weren't married in the UK, the proper legal way in the UK, till some of my younger sisters came along. My stepbrother from the wife that he had at the same time is only 1 year younger than me. And then my sister is 1 year younger than him. And then he has a sister 1 year younger than her. So it really was 2 marriages at the same time. Both women knew about it. They were completely separate. It wasn't like we were all living as one big happy family. Didn't really meet the other children until I was about 8 years old. Mm-hmm. So that's when my dad started to get a bit more religious and a lot stricter. And yeah, the kind of relationship dynamic with my dad changed quite a lot over the next years. I mean, in the end, he had total 4 wives with 13 children.
Wow.
So I'm actually one of 15 children because my mum also has 2 sons from a previous marriage. Wow. There's 15 tanks in the family.
Your dad should have had a couple of more Tommy tanks instead of...
Probably has, hasn't he? You probably got kids that you don't know about, man.
It's very, very possible. My oldest brother is in his 50s.
Wow.
And my youngest sister is 12. He's been spreading the tank love through many generations.
Fucking creating his own army, man. Fucking Genghis Khan.
It's got his own 11v11 squad.
Didn't know this other family until I was about 10 years old, getting properly introduced to them as my dad got a lot more religious, and then we kind of moved a lot closer, and to a point where like my stepbrother then was like my best mate then.
Oh, friend!
With my dad, he got married, not to my mother. He had a previous marriage beforehand. He had 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl, who are about 10 years older than me, 12 years older than me, and then 15 years older than me. He separated away from his wife. His wife going off with another guy. He had custody of the 3 kids. and then obviously met my mum. So my mum sort of became the mother of those 3 kids, as well as having 3 other kids with my dad. So there's 6 of us total, the so-called step brothers and sister. I just see as blood brothers. I don't see them as step brothers or anything like that. We remain close, still connect. Yeah, my dad's got 6 kids, which we'll find out a little bit later. He's got some good traits and bad traits in terms of fatherhood, but he was always the breadwinner in our family and not heavy on religion. Didn't have any religious beliefs coming in from another country, neither did my mum, but they thought it was important that we were brought up in a Catholic environment. We did go to church a lot more when we were younger, so obviously he thought the beliefs of church and structure was important, even though he didn't go himself. He did send myself and my mum and sort of nurtured us through that way, getting communion, getting baptized, confession, all that sort of stuff. That was something that was prominent in my childhood. Nice fun fact with my siblings is every one of their names start with A, and I'm the only one who's got my dad's name, which is
Told me.
which is
second.
So that's quite interesting, actually, that it sounds like he wasn't really following the religious kind of stuff himself, but was still sending you along to that way of life.
To repent your sins.
I think he just wanted you out of the house.
Yeah. So I think so. I think as it turns out, he should have come with us to church.
I remember my dad when we were growing up, like this is again when I was like 10, he used to, because he didn't used to live with us actually, he was kind of like living between the 2 families, so it was like a few days at ours, a few days at theirs. So when he would
Did
come
you
over...
still sleep in the same bed as your mum and both mums?
Yeah. What do you mean? We lived in completely different
That's a weird
houses.
dynamic, like coming
Both
home.
mums.
Yeah, I know that, but like your mum coming home and he's not been here for 4 days, you know, he's probably out tanking everyone, you know, or trying to have a wife. I think that's a weird dynamic, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we didn't question it because at the time it was the norm for us. We just growing up as kids. Dad's there a few days, Dad's not there a few days.
Better use that though, spreading the love.
Yeah, man.
And as you said, like, get into it a lot later on, but actually, we were grateful a lot of the time for those days that he wasn't around. So.
Yeah, I hear ya.
But anyway, the story that I wanted to just quickly tell is when he would come home, like, we hadn't seen him, but he would come over on the weekend in the afternoon, and he would make us all go to bed. He would say, like, oh, the prophet used to have afternoon nap, but now after all those years, I just realized he was getting his dog meat on. Putting all the kids to bed and
then doing his things, busting his nut, man. What a guy, man. Like, to live that life as well.
Yeah, I don't know how he got away with it. The guy must have had a lot of charm. Obviously, he had my good look.
Hello, 911 emergency. There's a handsome guy in my house. Oh, wait a second, cancel that. It's only me.
Man must have a sausage on him too, man.
Yeah, that bit's genetic as well.
That was genetic.
Fucking massive.
But do you know what it is, yeah? Okay, he might be a good-looking guy or not, but the guy just had an aura about him.
Yeah, same.
Like, if he says something, I listen to him. I don't talk back to him. He's so crazy.
Silence! I kill you!
Earliest memory I have of the other family is we were getting in the car to drive off to Barry Island. This mum and 2 little kids basically kicking the car, screaming at my dad to pull over the car. And that's the first knowledge that I had that there even was another family. But it's so strange when you're a kid, but you don't even question these things. No. You just accept it. Your dad just tells you, oh yeah, you got some brothers and sisters. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Can we go play with them?
Think about those things. You're not really wise about it, you know?
Yeah. I don't think I even knew about this other family until I was about 6 or 7.
Wow.
Go on, Baron. Give us a bit more background.
My dad, not as fruitful as your father's. He had the one relationship, my mum.
That you know of?
Yeah, and I have 3 other sisters. I'm sorry, 2 sisters and 1 brother, and there's myself. So 4 of us. It seemed like they were together for the kids. I'm sure that they must have been sick of each other at some point in their lives, but they were happy to ride along with it. And in terms of after my brother was born, they didn't sleep in the same bed for all that time. Like, till this day.
To this day!
It was very weird for me, like, growing up, watching TV and seeing how, like, relationships work. And my mum was sleeping in my brother's room in bunk beds. She was in the bottom bed and my brother was in the top bed.
And your dad was downstairs putting chairs against the door.
Oh, yeah. At some point, he worked late shift, so I never really saw him much after 6 o'clock. There was one time when I wanted to use the toilet. I go downstairs to get a glass of water, and it must have been about, like, 2 a.m. in the morning. I heard the TV in the living room, so I wanted to open the door to see what my dad was up to, say hello to him. And I tried to open the door, but I couldn't open it. My dad was like, no, sorry, don't come in. And I was like, what's going on? And he had like chairs barricaded on the doors. And like,
typical Baron.
And then And at some point in my life, we was recording a particular program on Channel 5, put the VCR on timer, changed the channel on timer mode as well, because he always watches news at the time. So channel changed to what was intended on recording, which was Naked in Westminster. And I thought that he might have just changed the channel back to Sky News at that point. He did that, but then he put the channel back to Naked Westminster.
You set your dad up there. You tricked him. I like it.
You didn't know how it moved to that moved to that channel, but it was funny because it did go back to Sky News, then back to Naked Westminster. I know why he barricaded the door.
Oh, God. See, this is quite old school, right? That I don't know how you feel these days. I think times have changed, right? That parents feel the need to stick together for their children. I don't think that's the same with our generation. Like, I don't think it's such a taboo now to get a divorce if things ain't working out. I don't think it helps the children at all, like, to stick a relationship out. Obviously make it try, but not over a decade where parents end up hating each other and just staying together for what they say is the sake of their children, when actually their children are just growing up in a home where their parents are arguing or fighting.
I agree with that. I saw it firsthand with my parents, but they seem to make it work. But they look a lot happier nowadays as opposed to growing up where there was no real chemistry, really. It was more like housemates.
Don't kick me out. I've started to really like you. So can I stay?
Of course you can stay.
So how would you describe your relationship with your father when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, like, strict background, my father was always the one disciplining me, but he wouldn't really spend time and do fun stuff with me, like watching football. So the relationship was more like I saw my father as a scary figure.
You said your dad's a disciplinarian. Was your dad like I know spoke a little bit about aura, right? And
yeah,
my dad is 5'8", 5'9", maximum. You know, how tall is your dad in stature?
Like 5'5".
Okay.
Yeah. Mine also isn't very big. I would say he was probably about 5'8" as well. Yeah.
It's crazy that you look at him and just like you said, aura is.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be 4 or 5 inches taller than him, but now you'd see him and you'd almost, I wouldn't say crumble, but you'd be like, oh, what an aura. Like, I mean, yes sir. You bow your hair. Just weird. Even like now I'm at this age, he's just got that, I won't say a hold, but you just got that respect. You got that ingrained in you for how many ever years in your childhood. But you just know that's dad. Even my older brother, who's big, taller, he's stronger. It's yes, dad. It's that respect thing.
Yeah. He was just like almost the same with other people. I saw him lose his temper quite a few times with just random people or very short-tempered.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Very, very, very short-tempered. Very, very alpha, my dad.
Yeah, very proud. Like
type A. I just see big 6'2" big muscle men crumble under my dad. My dad just look at them.
Similar to my one as well, where even though like he's a short man, he would still have that like aggression on him. I did hear stories when he got mugged in a lift. He had a samurai sword put to his head. Crazy stories, and you just realize he's a human being. As much as all the aggression and everything behind him, sometimes it was a front. And
Baron was saying he never did anything fun with him. My dad used to take us down the park. My dad is a super stubborn guy, right? Whatever he says goes, You ever see Waterboy now and goes, Mama says,
well, folks, Mama's wrong again.
Whatever my dad said sort of goes. And I remember, I don't know, when I was maybe like 13 or so, my brother was 14, and my dad was teaching us how to play tennis. And we were playing doubles, and then classic sort of 14, 15-year-old, my brother got cocky and goes, let me do it how I want to do it, all right? Don't tell me how to do it, right? And I was like, oh, shit. It's about to go down. So, think you know how to do it? Yeah, man, my brother is so cocky. Even to this day, he's so cocky, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'll play both of you, pointing to me and my dad, and I'll beat you. That's how good I am. That's like, oh my God. So one thing I'm doing is, if I mess up as my dad's partner, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. Because I'm making him look bad here, right? And second thing is, if I score these tennis points on my brother, guess who's going to go get licks later on when daddy's not around? Me. So I'm like, how do I play this? How do I play this? I'm like, I'd rather get licks off my brother than my dad, so I'm going to play properly. So it's my brother against my dad and me. And I don't know what happened, but the worst thing about it was my brother hit like a clean winner, and all he was doing was strutting around, walking around, flexing his muscles, shrugging his shoulders, nodding his head at my dad, and my dad was getting vexed.
You cannot be serious!
The more confident my brother got, the more winners he was getting. And to be fair, like if I was my brother, I'd be putting all the balls into my court, right? I'd be putting it into my brother's court. But my brother kept whacking it over to my dad and making dad run across the court like stupid. And I'm like, I'm giving it one of these scratchy headset moments. And then my brother won, right? And then he was so cocky. It was a bad winner more than it was a bad loser.
You show me a good loser, and I'm gonna show you a loser. It's not a popularity contest.
And I remember on the way home, my brother was talking. Yes, I told you I was gonna win. I told you. And then my dad just whacked him in the back of his neck with a racket. Whacked. I'm not even joking. Whacked him. And then my brother was like, my brother's one of those pride that I ain't gonna show him. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
And then walking home, it was me and my brother like dead silent.
Shit.
And then my dad, for the first time ever, I've never seen it before. Never ever seen it. I always tell my brother, you were the first person I ever heard my dad apologize for giving licks to.
Yeah.
And I was like, you are his favorite. Daddy, shouldn't have done that. That was bad. My dad got emotional because it was an ego thing. How dare you prove me wrong, sort of thing. And I was like, my brother, I'll celebrate, don't celebrate. I was like, nah, it's okay. My brother was like, it's okay. I shouldn't have been cocky. I should be more receptive. And I was like, you little pussy. But that was a funny park story. I've never heard my dad apologize for giving anyone a lick. It was kind of funny to see my brother, because I kind of wanted him to win.
Yeah.
Put my dad in his place a little bit, because my dad was a little know-it-all in certain things. Why are you laughing?
I just shocked, man.
But it was the same with my dad. If this guy had any power or authority in his life, luckily the guy was a fucking bus driver, a caretaker in a school. If this guy had any power, the guy would have been fucking Hitler, I'm telling you. Proper psycho. The guy was a psychopath. It's so strange. Now, he's like completely mellow. You still got that aura about him. Oh, he's not the same guy, luckily, that he was. When I was growing up, the guy would lose his shit over the most smallest thing, you know. I remember him beating me because my nails were a little bit too long. I'm talking about like just over a week or something of nail growth, you know, not like the aviator or whatever the fuck.
Dad would beat the shit out of me now. You know.
What I realized, a lot of it, like the stuff that he was telling us to do, be in the mosque 30 minutes before prayers and after prayers and everything, you know, to stand at the front. It was all about him, impressing.
You're representing him, yeah.
Yeah, so like anything we did, it's like a reflection on him. And he was gonna make us pay for it, you know, like, so we got beat with everything, mate, with like bare hands, with the fucking, what we used to call the black stick, which was from the vacuum cleaner, the stick from the vacuum cleaner. He used to take it out and beat the shit out of us with it, you know. It's so funny because in this day and age, the first thing anyone would think listening to these stories is like, oh man, you got to ring child protection.
Like, my friends didn't get beaten up like that.
Not at all. Like, it's so strange because obviously we all went to university, and I'm meeting some kids who grew up from Western culture, like living in the UK their whole lives, English parents, and they're like best mates with their dad.
Yeah.
And,
going
you know,
to a pub and drinking,
like,
isn't it?
Like, honestly,
it was weird, right?
Mate, listen, I never had a single conversation with my dad ever that wasn't telling me how I should conduct my life.
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing in studies? How much money are you earning?
Preach. Never asked me, oh, how's school? How you getting on? Because of like the religious stuff as well. Like, so if I did well in music or something like that, he'd be like, oh, why are you doing well in music? That's haram.
He said that doing stuff on camera is haram. Bro, all due respect, when was the last time you listened to your dad?
My dad was the opposite. Like, he'll be like, okay, yeah, if you're doing well in history, all right, what's English? What's science? And he'll find something why you're not good in that.
The thing was, like, my mum, so she actually left school a year early, probably when my dad was fucking corrupting her. She got kicked out of school. You wouldn't think it if you knew her. She's like the softest woman ever. So yeah, my dad also was just totally concerned with religion. So neither of them. So my mum didn't push me in school because she didn't feel, I guess, like she had a right to, because she never achieved it. That was a bit of a regret for me. I got my head into gear quite a bit later. Like when I was going to college and school, I was just a dosser, really.
You big dosser!
But yeah, my dad dad was proper authoritarian. And the thing was, not only did he have 4 wives, but the guy was drinking and partying in his young age. But I wasn't even allowed to hang around with girls. I wasn't allowed to talk to girls. Went to an all-boys school.
Ha! Gay!
I was like gathering, it sounds like a fucking hunt now, but like the page 3 newspapers, yeah, like all the fucking, with the big tits. And it was with my stepbrother actually. We were like collecting these fucking newspapers and we were stashing them in the garden behind a bush. And
would it have got wet though?
Like a carrier bag or whatever. Listen, right, we're teenage boys. I'm not trying to say this was very smart or anything. I'm just telling you the facts.
Okay.
And, my stepbrother's mum found them.
Yeah.
And so she had put them under her pillow in the bedroom to show my dad later, you know, like, what the fuck is this all about? But we were obviously looking for them. We were like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? And then we were just like looking around the house. For some reason we thought they might be around the house, and we found them under the pillow. And so we had the genius idea. We took the newspapers out and we replaced them with newspapers of just ordinary shit. So when my stepmom showed my dad, it was just like fucking newspapers of like fucking John Major or whatever, you know.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
This is like the one occasion I really thought we were dreading it, thinking we're about to get a beating. There's no way we're going to get away with this. But actually it was the first time like my dad was properly level with me. It's really weird. He was like, oh, what do you think we should do? I expected to get the biggest rollicking in my life, and I was just like, ground me maybe? They fucking know all about this stuff. It's like the same now. Like if you found your kids having this material, like we wouldn't flip out, right?
No.
You would be like,
Aaron just take it for himself.
I'll just tell him to find a better hiding place and be like, well done, mate.
But yeah, my dad's response was to fucking try and get me married, mate. But I managed to call that down. I was like, no, you should just ground me, mate.
Just hearing about all those beatings, especially from dog meat. There was 2 major beatings, which my dad caused, but it was mostly about the mental sort of bullying. The one major one was when my sister, like 17 years old, and she was doing work experience at that time and doing her studying A-levels. We all sat down having some food, and then my dad was talking to my sister about her work experience and how it's going. Like my sister didn't want to listen to him. You're just a small man. I didn't think nothing of it. We're just watching TV. And then like 5 minutes later, it was like a delayed reaction, and then he just turned to my sister and he just slapped her, and then he slapped her again and again and again, like 5 or 6 times. She was wearing glasses at the time, and like the glasses just went on the floor, just like broke completely, and he just carried on. And then I was like shaking. My sister was almost crying. This my other sister watching on. My mum came in. She thinks she's cooking at that time, and my mum was like, what's going on here? My sister was just completely, and then she went to university like a year later to Manchester Uni. Basically around that time, she just stopped talking to my dad for like years. And the same thing happened to me as well. Maybe a couple of months later, talking to my mum, and then I said a word called Salah, and Salah means fuck. And then my mum was like, you can't say that, you can't speak like that. And my dad like overheard, and he just like, he just punched me and like, bam, beating the shit out of me. And then I did a cheeky little elbow,
yeah.
like into his stomach to stop him. And then he punched me even more harder. And then afterwards, mum like tried to separate, like tried to push my dad out of the way. And then he said, in Bengali, oh, you're getting all brave, trying to fight back, eh? You're getting all brave, trying to fight back. And then he just walked away. I wasn't like emotional or anything like that. I was just shocked. I was shaking. From that day, I didn't talk to my dad for like 7 years.
Fuck, really?
I went to uni a year later. Didn't talk to my dad when I came back home for Christmas. And it's not like I didn't want to talk to him. It was awkward, but he turned his face.
It was actually more from his side then.
And which made it more awkward to the point when after the first few occasions I went back home and we didn't talk, I started like stopped talking to him as well. Like I didn't really want to talk to him anymore. So we just didn't talk to each other. And it was like fucking awkward, you know. I think
one of those ones where he'll come in the kitchen and you'll walk out or...
Yeah. And like watching TV downstairs, he would come downstairs, sit in the living room, and I would just walk out. And my mum said, this is not great. You need to talk to him. And she even said something to my dad like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, you got to have to talk to your own son. And basically my dad said, no, he didn't want to sort it out. And I think at that time, at that period, my sister eventually like apologized for everything that happened, and my dad apologized.
That's crazy that she apologized, you know.
And my dad apologized as well.
Yeah.
Well, no, sorry, he didn't apologize. My dad didn't apologize. No, he would never apologize. But my dad said, I accept your apology.
Apologize.
It's great what you're doing in university now, and hope you get your degree and everything sorted out.
That's crazy that he gave her a beating and she apologized to him, right?
Yeah. The two beatings kind of like stopped everything, stopped the relationship from working.
But actually, like, the worst incident for me wasn't even like a beating. It's a stupid story. Just being stupid kids again. I was probably about 13, 14 at the time.
There's a soap one.
Yeah, so basically the whole story is this, right? My sister is 2 years younger than me. We were both in school, but at different schools. And there was a boy who was putting £1 in her drawer on a weekly basis or something because he wanted her to be his girlfriend, wanted to be her boyfriend. And my sister came to me, like, because I actually knew the boy, right? He used to go to the same mosque as me. So my sister came to me and was like, this kid is giving me money and he wants to be my boyfriend or whatever. And I was like, oh, what, do you want to be his girlfriend? And she was like, no. He's giving me this money and stuff. So I was like a fucking like crafty little stupid kid. I was like, yeah, just take the money and just tell him you're his girlfriend, So anyway, one day I'm basically just like, I don't know, playing around the living room, doing some stupid stunts or whatever, and then this £1 drops out of my pocket. So I'm taking a cut, from this.
You're pimping your sister out, mate.
What are you, my pimp now?
So that's basically the line my dad said to me. I hadn't really thought about it. I was just like, if some kids
pimping out your sister, basically, yeah?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, some kid's dumb enough to give us money. Why not the fuck? Just take it. You're 13 years old or whatever, or 12. She's like younger. It's like, what the fuck are they doing? They're like holding hands once. Or like, it's not even that, right? You're just saying you're boyfriend and girlfriend. Nothing's fucking happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, £1 drops out of my pocket. My mum sees it. She's like, oh, that's my £1. And I was like, no, it's mine. She's like, where'd you get £1 from?
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's mine. And she's like, I'll give it to your dad and we'll let him get to the bottom of it. Just like the next day or whatever, I see my dad and my dad's like, I heard about this £1. Go and get your sisters. I want to hear everything. So there's like the four of us. There's like me, my stepbrother, my stepsister, and my sister. Because my dad does nothing, no one knows anything. I was like, I would just blag it out. But my sister, he was always light on the girls. He was only like beating the boys. Like he didn't really touch the girls. So my sister's like all fucking brave, innit? She's like, oh no, it's fine. I'm going to tell him everything. And so she just fucking comes out with it. Like, so there's this boy, he's giving me money. And I said I should take the money and say he's my boyfriend. I don't know how my dad decides, but he's like, all of you are fucking in on this. Like, he's like losing his shit. He's like, you're pimping out your sister.
Shit.
So his first instinct is like, I'm going to the kitchen. And like, luckily my stepmom's there, cause he's getting a fucking knife. He's like, I'm gonna fucking chop all your hands off. I don't know how serious he was. My dad didn't really joke about shit. Like, if he said he was gonna do something, he's gonna do something. And my stepmother was like crying, like, no, what the fuck are you doing? Like, obviously not swearing at him, cause she was scared of him as well. And in the end, he settles on the fucking soap, doesn't he? So he gets a couple of bars of soap, cuts them into a nice little house. And I'm like, I've seen my fucking dad a million times, and I've never seen him this angry about something. So I know he's legit. Again, I was probably the stupid one. Like, my brothers and sisters are just like crying and stuff. Whereas I'm like, oh, fuck it. He's serious this time. I'm just gonna have to fucking do it. So I just start munching down on this Dove soap. It's fucking awful. And I swallow it all down, literally I've eaten my fucking whole half bar of soap. So like, to this day, if I go in a bathroom and I smell this soap, it makes me want to gag, get fucking nauseous. Yeah, it's this one, it's Imperial Leather,
I used it in uni, and then you were like, get it out of my face.
Were you the only one that eaten the soap then?
So I think like maybe one of my brother or sister had taken like a little nibble at the corner, but I was like, my dad's fucking serious, he's about to cut our fucking hands off. But yeah, I was the only one who really like made a good fucking effort of it. Luckily my stepmom managed to kind of stop him from going any further with the rest of them. But yeah, so not only the smell and stuff, like I couldn't eat properly for at least like 6 weeks, 2 months. So like everything I was eating just tasted like really bad. It had like killed my tongue taste buds. That was the worst thing I think my dad ever did to us, for sure. Yeah. And I think the only reason we're talking about me still talking to my dad now, like after all this shit, is because my mum broke up with my dad when I was 15 years old. I was working at the time at McDonald's, and my mum was telling me stuff. We were driving back home every night. She was talking about leaving my dad. And to her, I'm like, oh no, you sure? And like, I think you should do it if that's what you feel. But inside, I was fucking overjoyed, you know. I was like, this guy is going to be out of my fucking life. That's a strange thought for like a 15, 16-year-old boy to have, just want your dad gone. Completely changed my dad, luckily, like the divorce. He's like a lot more mellow and was a lot better with us whenever we saw him now. But at least we're on like good terms.
Did you talk to your mum?
Not so much. He makes that effort. He's still with this other wife. And my mum has since remarried. My mum's husband is a bit funny. He doesn't want him really around. She's probably told him some of the stories.
Yeah, understandably, innit? But at least he give you lots of money in it in your wedding.
He's the kind of guy, he carries around with him at all times a thick wad of £50 notes. He just enjoys whipping it out and like 50, 50, 50, and then ends up giving you the fiver at the back, you know? And like whenever he goes to India to see like the distant relatives, he buys like a load of fucking phones and stuff to take back to them, like just to show off, like he's the big man living the life.
Yeah.
Exactly like my dad.
Image, innit? My dad always looked the part, man. I'll tell you all that. He always looked prestige wherever he went. Always looked the part. I always had to shine his shoes.
I am hard, but I am fair. Here you are all equally worthless.
I know that you talked about your worst sort of beating and that. I can't really think of too much. As in the worst one. Oh, God. A few stories just popped up in my head there.
All the repressed memories.
Story, actually, when I was younger, was playing a card game with my dad again. For some reason, I found myself on his team, which is always the worst. My dad always wanted to win. I think that's where I probably get my competitive nature from. But I was maybe 12. I kept making a wrong decision. And every time I put a card down, I'd almost shit myself and look up at him, see if I made the right decision or whatever. I remember he just lost his head. He just kept slapping me. And it was the first time ever my mum stopped him. Like, he hit me consecutively. When he whacked me, I was maybe 11 or 12, and I wet myself because he was slapping me constantly. The worst thing my dad would do is, like, he'll tell the other brother or sibling, go get a belt so I can dog me. And the worst thing about that was if you pissed off that sibling that day, or you stitched them up or something, they're getting that big-ass belt with that big-ass belt buckle. And I'm like, and I had to do it sometimes. And like my dad beat my sister, and I always felt bad for my sister, so I used to get that thin belt all the time. I remember once my dad clocked it. He goes, "Nah, go get a big thicker belt, please."
Shit.
I was like, "Oh no," and I'll take ages to try and do it, and try and find the next thinnest one, and he'd be like, "Hurry up, or I'll get you one." And I was like, "Oh shit."
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
So I know we're all talking about the discipline side of it all, and how was your dad's as providers? Because my dad was the sole breadwinner. He used to go, I wouldn't see him throughout the day. He would leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, come back at 9 o'clock. My dad used to teach people how to drive. He always used to tell us, "Oh, I hate it." And my dad used to have psoriasis, and he used to get creamed up my mum 6 o'clock in the morning, and he used to go out the whole day and graft. He used to have his own driving school after he worked for a company. My mum used to then work the reception, and they used to tag team it that way. But I always remember my dad saying, "I absolutely hate my job, but I have to do it. One, I'm good at it, and two, provide for the family." So how was your dad as providers? Obviously, we're talking about one segment of his discipline.
100% in terms of work ethic. I get that from my dad. He was also like the fucking Indian Del Trotter.
I grafted 19, 20 hours a day to put groceries on that table.
Any little scheme he could work his way into to make a bit of money. The guy's done everything in life. He was a bus driver. He was a caretaker at school. He did like scrap business. He made some decent money there. He was a property tycoon, you know, like selling and buying houses. He wasn't really like the provider for our family though. Like, I don't know if he was really contributing a lot. He's like a hoarder. He used to like work hard, graft for the money, but you never saw that money. You don't know what the fuck happened to it. He wore the same shoes for 50 years.
Same. My God, man. Oh my God. 100%. He hoards shit, and oh my God, he would never throw anything. Nothing goes out of date or out of fashion for this guy. You know?
Like I said, he was like the caretaker at the school, and he used to actually get us to fucking help him out. After we finished school, we would help him clean the fucking school, and then he would give us like 50p.
Exactly like my dad as well. Extreme hard worker. He had, at some point, he had like 4 houses and 2 restaurants. He sold a couple of houses for like really cheap at the wrong time, so he didn't make the money that he should have really. He had all this knowledge, but not making the right decisions, to be honest. Selling himself a bit short. Whenever he used to argue with us, whenever he used to try and discipline us, he would always mention how great he was, how hard he had to work for things that we will never achieve what he has in our second lives. Not even.
That's a great quote.
The discipline of my father was mostly mental. He would say things like about girls.
Your dad spoke to you about girls?
He said one thing, which I still remember to this day. If you do get married, or if you have a girlfriend, you're going to be very lucky to have one with the way you look and the way you are.
My God, you're ugly, aren't you?
He said, any girl that you can get. He said, hey, prick, who would want to be with an ugly boy like you? And he
I
said,
think your dad gave you more mental than physical, didn't he?
Yeah. At some point in my life, I tried to go through women just because.
How old were you?
1920 university time. At that time, he stunted my chances with women, or he made just look at them but not be able to talk to them or anything like that. I was beaten before I can actually go up to them and like chat them up.
I'm sorry, do you speak English?
Oh, he speaks English. He just can't speak to women.
He didn't want you to go to university, right?
He said that I'm not capable to go to university. He wasn't wrong. I had the grades and everything to go to university at that time, but he said, you're not this year. You're going to find a job. You're too immature. You're not capable.
It's funny that you're the child that rebelled against your father by going to university. You know, most children rebel from their parents by like fucking running away from home or whatever, selling drugs on the street, selling their ass. But you went to university and that was rebelling against your dad.
There was a significant conversation that we had when I was 15. He said I was completely out of control, which really wasn't true at all. And he was even looking for council houses and looking for ways to kick me out because he didn't want me there. He was saying that I'm going to kick you out and there's only going to be two options. Either you're going to be dead or you're going to be in jail. He said that I want you to realize that life is not easy and the life that I had is hard. He thinks I've had it really easy and he wanted to...
Because he had to grab for it and you handed it.
Surely as a father, seeing how much he struggled...
You want to give them a better head start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my dad was the opposite. He was like, I struggled and I want you to fucking struggle and I'm going to make you struggle by kicking you out the house. But at some point I didn't say much. I tried to like put my head down and work hard. And my mum was like telling my dad like, no. But so glad I didn't go to none of those council houses that he was looking at because fucking hell, I would have definitely been involved with the wrong crowd or doing the wrong thing.
You know, obviously we're talking about fatherhood, so it's not necessarily just about our fathers. But like, let's say Baron Jr. now as the father.
Probably got a couple of them all over the place.
What would I do? Like, I want my kid to really enjoy their childhood. Yeah, like do things and spend time with the kids.
Maybe your dad thought it was that hardship that made him successful.
Yeah. But my dad wasn't really buying me shit.
Yeah.
I had to steal pounds and things from his pocket, like to buy Nike trainers. I put £1 every day in my pocket from my dad's pocket, and then I managed to accumulate 30 quid.
I don't know what my dad was doing with his money, seriously, because I remember the first time like he ever bought me clothes was when I was fucking 15 years old. He was like, go and pick whatever you want. So me and my brother picked fucking identical Adidas tracksuits.
He was always like buying things on the cheap or like, there was one time when he went to McDonald's on my birthday. I was like 11 years old and then brought a chicken burger and divided it between four of us.
Classic.
Milkshake.
I remember that. Filet of fish only on my birthday and we had to divide it by 4 pieces.
It was always like that, man. Like,
put the milkshake into 2 cups.
We were so excited to go to McDonald's and then we came back and we told him we were still hungry. My dad was vexed. He was shouting at us. He was like, don't be greedy now. Don't be greedy.
So Dogme, you've had a lot of practice coaching children. How do you think you'll be as a father? What are you going to do differently to what your dad did? Or what do you think you will take from him?
I think a fair bit. Like my dad had his vices. He had a lot of good things, right? You see how I turned out, you know. Some good traits, I've got some bad traits, but I think a lot of the stuff I think my dad did. For example, my dad was a provider. May not have bought me clothes as such, but food and always in the fridge. There was opportunities. My dad always gave me opportunities. He made us learn the guitar. He made me go to like Stagecoach where I did like dancing, singing and drama. We didn't want to do it because it was uncool. And I mean, I'd like to try and show my kids, you know, you're not too good for something. I'm not too good to go and cut the lawn. I'm not too good to go and do those things. Around this area where I coach is these kids wear $300 cleats. They live in big houses. Their mums and dads drive big cars. So there's a little bit of an entitlement there, you know. What pisses me off more about that is they'll go and train. They'll take off their cleats and put on $250 sneakers, their sweaty socks into them. And I'm like, you know what you're doing here, hey guys, right? You know, they're 200. He goes, that's all right. I'll get another pair, you know, in a month. So, you know, but I didn't have a social relationship with my dad. I didn't have a talk about girls. I didn't talk about my feelings. In my childhood, I would say about feelings, about him loving me or anything like that. I've never heard him say that, you know. What are you laughing for? But I'd definitely take on some things, and my dad did, and maybe just present it in a different way. It's like when you're coaching, right? You don't say you do that because I said so. You do it because, all right, because this is why you do it. This is a wise. It's almost like guided discovery, you know. But yeah, my dad was very, very poor on relationships, and you know, he didn't know how to show his love or show his feelings until later on.
That's a big one, isn't it? Feelings. I chuckled there at Dog Meat because there was one time I wrote down my feelings on a piece of paper and I read it out to my dad at that time when we weren't talking. I thought it was a brilliant piece of work. And I just said, sometimes you provoke a reaction from me and I know I've let you down. I only want to make you proud. It was like 2 pages long. So I just thought, like, I'm going to read it out to my dad. At that time when I read it out to my dad, I didn't get the reaction that I hoped. He was laughing. And he said, what? You want to be a Nobel Prize winner, is it? And then he was like, I provoke you. Yeah, everything I've written here is exactly how I feel inside. And he said, if you feel like that, you can get out the house.
Get out my house.
And then he said, you will never be a Nobel Prize winner or novelist in your life. Then I just got the piece of paper, walked upstairs and ripped it apart.
Let's have your backs in like other situations.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember like one time I was in the mosque, it's about 15 years old now. Did you ever have someone pull by your ear?
Yeah.
So I got big ears.
So like my dad was also teaching in the mosque at this point. I was misbehaving or whatever. So this guy, he took me into my dad and was like, look, your son, like what he's doing. And my dad went psycho on him. He was like, get your hands off my son.
Only I could beat him.
Yeah, basically. It was a shock to me. Like, oh, here we go. I'm about to get a beating. And he was like, I still remember that the one time he fucking stood up for me.
I had a weird one. Like I was maybe like a 10 and we used to live on an estate. Big fat white girl drinking a milkshake from McDonald's. You ever seen Eddie Murphy Raw? You know the one where he says, oh, I got an ice cream, got from the ice cream van. Someone was mocking him.
You don't have no ice cream. You didn't get none. Cause you are on the welfare.
And then his ice cream fell or whatever. But anyway, there was this girl with a milkshake and she was kind of like goading me. And I was like 10. And she kept saying, I got a milkshake. You ain't got a milkshake. You can't afford it. I kind of like did a karate kick and I kicked the milkshake out of her hand. And she's like, I'm going to go tell my mum on you. And we're going to go tell your parents. I was like, oh. And then I was like, nah, I'm dusting, man. I went into my house and I hid. And on the door. And then my dad came to the door. And he's like, oh, what's the problem? And he goes, oh, well, your son just kicked my daughter's milkshake. I just bought her that for da-da-da. My dad goes, where's Dog Meat? And Dog Meat was hiding behind the sofa. So I come out the sofa, and then my dad closed the door and goes, let me find out what happened. So I told my dad, she was saying this, and this. And my dad's like, and then he goes, did you kick her milkshake over? Because the worst thing my dad always said, right, you can do whatever crime, but if you lie about it, that is the worst. Yeah. That's where you get the double slaps, you know? So I was like, I'm not going to lie here. I'm going to say, yeah, I kicked her over. And he goes, oh, why did you kick it over? And I told him. My son said he didn't kick it over. He said, your daughter dropped it. And then she goes, I want that £1 back or whatever it was, 40p. And my dad said no and shut the door. And then my dad come into the living room and normally he does this trick, innit? Like if he knows that you're going to go run and you're in trouble, he goes, come and sit next to me. And I'm like, oh my God, no. Oh my God. And then he comes and sit there and we kept watching the TV and he didn't even beat me. He just defended me. Every time he moved, I was like fidget and try and block my face or something. moved his little twitch, man. I had like the twitchy thing.
Yeah, I know that.
You know, he'd always defend me against others. And, you know, one time like some kid like fouled me in football and I came home crying. My dad knocked on his dad's door and was like, I'm going to sort you out. So there I was as old, man. It was crazy the loyalty he had for his family, even though he didn't mind beating the family.
When I got beaten up in school, I come back home. And my dad was like, hey, wish Anand was my son.
You're not my son.
There was one time when I was being accused of stealing a guy's DVD. Guy used to come over to our house and we used to play. Told my mum, like, I didn't do it. And even when I came back from school, At that time, his mum drove outside the school waiting for me. His mum's English was like really poor. All I understood was like, DVD, no, DVD. And I was like, I didn't take any DVDs. I didn't take. So she was like driving alongside me while I was walking. And I said, no, I didn't. And then I come back home and I tell my mum. And my dad was there as well. My mum was like, this is harassment. And my dad was like, this is not right. So the guy started calling, telling me that I took my DVD. And then I put the phone down like 3 times. And then he called like again. And my dad picked up the phone. And he was like, my son didn't steal your DVD. You bastard! You bastard! He did not steal the DVD! And he was like, mental. He went crazy. He said like bastard like 100 times. and then after he put the phone down and he was like, we're going to go over to the house. They lived on the same street as us. And my dad was like, we're going to go over to their home. And I tried to stop my dad from doing it. And then we walked over to his house. As we knocked on the door, the lights switched off. And my dad still said to him, if you ever ring again, I'm going to call the police, you bastard. And they went back over. I was shocked. My dad.
For you.
Yeah, he stood up for me, man.
Wasn't there like a football story?
Oh my God. Yeah. So we were playing football out after school and I was in goal. I was having a magnificent performance and the guy just had a spelter of a shot from like 6-7 yards away and I managed to tip it over. I didn't wear gloves or anything at that time. A good 5 minutes later, I picked up a ball that was rolling and then I realized my wrist was hanging. So it broke. So at that point I was like screaming in agony. So they started calling like the teachers that were there. The headmaster was being a real dick, saying stuff like, oh, you shouldn't be playing after school. As the ambulance was there, the absolutely gorgeous looking paramedic was saying that he's completely out of order. He shouldn't be saying this. You got your wrist broke. And all I can hear is the boys that were playing football outside screaming and saying that, oh, doctor, I got a problem right in my balls. And like, because she was standing. They were ringing my home phone. No one was picking up. So they rang my dad's mobile phone. And my dad was at work at that time. And he said, sorry, I can't pick up my son. I'm at work. So he put the phone down. So they rang him again. And they said that you need to come immediately. You know, someone needs to go to the ambulance with him. So my dad was like, no, you know, I can't come. And then he put the phone down again, the second time. The teacher rang again and he switched off his phone.
Shit.
They were like, you need to come because it's an emergency. Your son's going to go to the hospital. They didn't even explain what had happened. Yeah, what the cause was. He just put the phone down before they could actually tell him. And they were like, that's outrageous from your dad. And I go, I think he might be busy at work at that point. And they were like, yeah. But there was a teacher that took me to hospital and sat with me and they were like, we need to get some form signed. Really need your parents to come in. At some point, they rang home again. And then my mum like picked up the phone and she said that like, oh, I was always at home. And my mum was really pissed off at my dad, like really pissed off. And she made it clear on the phone to my teacher, like what an idiot the man is. So my mum had to get a lift from like an uncle, family friend. She came in and my mum was like screaming at me. And the doctor said, could you calm down, please? There's no way to talk to your son like this. He's going through a really hard time. And my mum was like, stupid boy, you shouldn't be playing football. You know, you're a small boy. You're tiny. You shouldn't be playing football. You know, these boys are too big to play football with.
Don't try and play with the big boys, mate.
Yeah, don't try to play with the big boys, mate. You ain't a baller.
My dad got a letter through the post from the headmaster saying that it was gross negligence on his part and that he will be contacting the social services. What had happened was very serious. And my dad was really shocked at that point. And he was like, oh, no. Instead of going to the headmaster to see him, he wrote a nice long letter, sent it via post, saying that I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm very, very sorry. It won't never happen again. I didn't realize my son was going to hospital for a broken bone. It might have been a cold or a cough. But he was really busy at work. And from this day, whenever I go home, I always speak to my mum and say, remember that time when Dad didn't come to hospital? And my mum was like, disgusting, isn't it? Disgusting, man. Because, yeah, something that is never forgotten. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why the whole relationship with my father this is another thing that dented the loving relationship we could have had.
One of my dad's proud moments. I remember, like, I was doing soccer tryouts at the end of school. So random. My dad came with my 2 uncles. So obviously my 2 uncles have come over for like a family get together or something. And I see my dad and my 2 uncles. I'm like, rah, what is my dad doing here? Like, my dad's never here. My dad's making style like he'd come and watch me play soccer all the time. Man's making style because he's got audience, you know. But anyway, we score a goal in the game and for a bit of fun at the end, it's penalties, right? Everyone took a penalty. I scored a goal in the game and I was like, oh yeah, buzzing. I'm looking down at my muddy ascots My ascots, mate. I'll tell you what, mate.
I had some high tech.
They were like some pointy flat boots that you just don't know where that ball's coming off. You know, it's my penalty, and I'm like, oh, you know what? All the penalties ahead of me miss. So I'm like, oh my god, if I miss now, my daddy's gonna just rinse me. So I'm like, all right, I've decided where I want to go. I'm gonna put this ball in the top right corner. I'm going for the top right corner. All right, I take a big run up. I smash the ball, aiming for that top right. But as I hit the ball, I open my eyes, and it is sailing into the top left corner. Right? I swear to God, top left corner, and it goes in the top corner, right? And I'm like, boom. And my dad, on the way home, all he kept to, oh, dog me. What a penalty. You hit it in the top corner. You had the best penalty. How did you hit it in that top corner? I'd never told him to this day I aimed for that. Ever to this day. I'm like, yes. My dad was bigging me up all the way.
Corner?
Yeah. I'm aiming for that top right corner, man. I swear to God, those ascots, mate, those ascots, they come off one point, man. They went boom the other way.
Yeah,
But,
so
man,
why does the ball still go the other way nowadays then?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. That's just bad aim. But later on, when I'm trying to get like a next little high tech upgrade, my dad's like, "What's wrong with those ascots?
They did it for you the first time.
They scored you those goals. Hey, go put those ascots. Let me see if they still fit you." And you're like trying to scrunch your foot right up to the front, just trying to say that to me. And he goes, "That's okay. We don't get you no high tech. Sorry, my other brother. Hey, what boots you got here?" And then he gives me boots which are 3 sizes too big. wear double sock and put some newspaper in it.
Back over to the Baron. Perhaps you can give us some of Baron Senior's words of wisdom this week.
Baron Senior's words of wisdom. There was one where it was, do as I say, but not as I do. I will tell my son as well, do as I say, but not as I do.
What other words of wisdom you got for us, especially maybe people that don't have fathers or a father figure?
So for those single parents and the kids who have single parent families, especially no fathers, I'll be like, I can be the father that you never had.
Tell your mum to give me a call.
Tell your mum to give me a call. I'll be there. I'll
Baron,
fix up
available for you 24/7.
I'll fix up all the shelves.
365 days.
I'll fix up all the shelves and making your mum feeling all right.
All right, that's it.
Just out of curiosity, whose dad would win in a fight?
Mine.
My dad, he was threatening one woman once about parking space. Because she said that you shouldn't be parking here, like move your fucking car out of the way.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I'm only going to the shops and I'm going to be here 5 minutes. Say that she's calling her husband. And my dad was like, you can call your husband, but have you seen the size of my shoes? And, he said,
shit.
And then he started taking his shoes off. But yeah, but I think my dad wouldn't really win, but he will fight dirty though. He will take his shoes off.
Yeah. Season 2, yeah. The later years, Fatherhood Part 2. Yeah.
All our dads behind bars. We've been doing the dog show between the class.
My dad mellowed out last 10, 15 years.
Shit, my dad's gonna do some fucking probably some jihadi shit or whatever, I don't know. Go out with a bang.